Another $1,000 that you can try to text another number coming around 6:30, and then the Corey Roddick Experience after that. Joe in Philly, what's going on?
Yo, what up, guys?
How are you?
Hey, so every time I hear about these bigger companies getting bought out and you talk about antitrust, I get a little worried. When was the last time antitrust laws were actually enforced in this country?
I was talking about that a while ago. I'm like, in addition to white-collar crime barely being prosecuted, they really seem to have weird choices when they go in on antitrust. I mean, it's almost like it's a bygone era that they even pay attention to it.
Right. The last big case I remember was Time Warner, and that was late 90s, early 2000s, maybe.
I mean, that might have been a front page one. There have been plenty since then. It's just that, boy, the ones that they choose.
There's just not enough big companies doing stuff like that for them to go after them, Alan.
I guess so. But also, the choices that they make, whether or not to block, seem really, really weird to me.
Right, and I'm only certified in bird law, so the whole antitrust thing is just way over my head. So it's kind of
Yeah. Hey, have you been paying attention since you're in Philly? Have you been paying attention to the whole Hahnemann University Hospital thing?
Dude, that guy is a scumbag.
So Hahnemann University Hospital in Philly, the guy who owns it.
It's Hahnemann, by the way.
Hahnemann, sorry, yeah. This guy, Joel Friedman, this is a hospital that is closed, but it's got 500 beds in it, and the guy who owns it won't open it until Philly pays him $1 million a month in rent.
Yeah.
And then could get a huge tax break from this stimulus package.
Yeah, so the story is he bought that a couple of years ago and just basically ran it into the ground so he could prove that there was a loss on it so he could actually close it.
Sure.
And it helped them out a little bit in the tax breaks, and then since it's been closed, now he's like, hey, pay me all this money, and Philly was like, you know what, go shove it. After a couple months of kind of trying to negotiate something. And it was kind of funny because, my dad's a Irish Catholic, kind of racist, anti-Semite kind of guy.
He checks a lot of boxes there, Joe.
And so, right. And so we were having this conversation a couple of weeks ago. He goes, you know what? The guy's a Jew. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? He's like, he doesn't know. He just wants to do business in these times. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm like, yeah, the guy's a shrewd businessman.
Right.
But you know what? The city told him to go shove it, so they're going to figure something out.
Right. Well, yeah, he's a private equity guy. You strip it for parts and then try to sell it to somebody else.
Did your dad call the show a couple times yesterday?
Yeah.
No. All right, be safe, guys.
All right, thank you. There's Joe in Philly, whose dad doesn't like the Jews, apparently, all that much. Yeah, did he call himself Ryan yesterday, by any chance? One of the Trump guys screaming at me?
Right.
You're not listening.
Yeah, so a bunch of people. I got a lot of mail
I'm sure you did.
last
I got a
night
bunch, too.
over the Trump people who called, flailing to come up with an excuse for why their guy wasn't doing anything. Alan, yesterday, the guy said that Trump banned travel from China, but he never did that. He said that American citizens were allowed to return home and didn't have to quarantine themselves. Yeah, there were a whole lot of misunderstood facts on the part of the people who called the show yesterday for the better part of a half an hour, who, I don't know, I was hoping perhaps they could illuminate the situation for me. But it wasn't really in the cards for them. They're too busy waging war on reality to bother with the coronavirus, I guess. But what are you going to do?
He is a wartime president. War on facts.
I thought you were on his side.
Oh, I said
he's
my
your
side
guy.
right here.
Yeah.
He's your guy.
More on fake news, am I right?
I just like to, butter you liberal tards up a bit.
First of all, it's libtards. He doesn't even have liberal tards. He can't even get the stupid buzzword insults down. Liberal tards. I like that.
Did you see somebody emailed us and suggested the phrase Magaloid?
Yeah, Stripper Scott.
Was it?
Yeah, that was his.
Oh, I didn't know that's what
And
it
yeah,
was.
he kept hitting me up with it. He was very mad that I didn't throw it out there. I'm like, it's not gold, baby. I mean, what do you want?
Been
Magaloid.
around
There
for a
you
bit,
go.
and
Well, I don't even know about that, but
Oh, I
like,
know.
It has,
just didn't
'cause
scratch my
then
itch.
He
So this email
DM
must have
me.
gotten to me late because
Yeah.
you guys didn't say anything.
You were the last line of defense. He's like, maybe I'll hit Mary.
There you go, man. You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I got
hit
it. Yeah, it didn't tickle me.
What a menace.
Oh, what a menace.
What a menus that guy can be.
I just can't. All right, we don't have to go back to it.
No, we can't. It's the end of the show.
It just doesn't. I can't believe you typed menus and didn't see menus. That's what blew my mind, is that you read menus as any other word.
Yeah.
No explanation.
What could I say? There is no explanation.
It also means that he has never seen the word menace.
yeah.
true.
He hasn't seen it in the Phantom Menace. He hasn't seen it in Menace to Society.
Don't be a menace to South Central or drinking your juice
I
in the
watched
hood.
the movie Dennis the Menace. I remember.
Dennis the Menace. So how did you come up with MENUS for Menace?
I don't know. I have a brain fart. I don't know. I don't know.
That's
I was
what-
more on the other side of how did you not read that as menus? You've definitely read 100 menus. So how did you not
but
see that word and go
thinking-
menus?
I was thinking menace in my head, and I didn't the spelling. Once I put it on there, and there was no, spell check underneath it, no line underneath it. I took it as gold.
Must be good.
That's what I'm saying. I didn't even think about it. I know I've seen menu on every restaurant I go to. I've seen menace from things that just throughout my life. So I don't know. I don't have an explanation for you. I'm just stupid. That's it.
I think you are rushed.
I wasn't rushed. I did this over the course of 2 days. I started it on Tuesday.
Yeah, but if you were going back and like proofreading it before you sent it to us, you would read that and go, "Oh, that's menus, not menace."
But what I was explaining to Mary in the hallway, I'm like, you don't necessarily have to have a trained eye, but I wasn't looking for errors. I mean, I was reading it back to myself, and again, in my head, I'm reading what I think is there. So there was no line underneath it.
So you
There was
wrote
no
it.
correction.
You wrote it. Read it again. Mm-hmm. Read menus as menace.
Yes.
And you read it a third time or just a second time?
I read it a third time because
So when you read it the second time, what were you looking for?
I don't know.
Traditionally, when people read something, they're looking for misspellings.
Do you read it out loud or do you read it to yourself?
I read it out loud. And I said it as menace. And I don't know. I don't have an excuse here. Like I'm sorry. I just don't. It was a typo and a stupid mistake.
It's fine. I'm not as hard on you, but the idea of reading it out loud and seeing it as menace or seeing menus and reading it as menace is really funny to me.
Yeah. It's funny.
Especially since that movie, Menace to Society, has Computer Love in it. The song Computer Love is in the movie Menace to Society. Is there any connection there? Menus to Society?
I don't think so. It's been a while. Is it your face I see?
Oh, my computer screen. Oh. Now I want to see Menace to Society again. That's a great movie
I haven't seen that in
I haven't seen yet.
25 years. When did it come out?
Yeah, who was the kid that was in it? He's a big deal at the time. He had the braids. He's been in other stuff for a long
I
time.
was just looking
Not
at the
Omar
poster.
Epps. Lorenz Tate, right? Isn't Lorenz Tate in Menace to Society?
It might be.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, listen, it is a fascinating bit of brain fart there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a brain fart. How do any typos get through? There's people, and this is on professional.
It's a good question when spell checks running and
Yeah, I'm just one person, but and I like to think of myself as a professional, but I'm not a professional writer. But there are times where I've read publications like a magazine or a book or whatever, and there's a typo in that, and that's the writer getting it wrong, that's their editor getting it wrong, that's the publisher getting it wrong, and no one seemed to correct it. So, and there's no explanation for that because you have all the resources at your disposal. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know.
And you're right, the spell check wouldn't pick it up because it just thinks it's menus.
Yeah, but usually even when you like mess up like sentence phrasing or if your sentence is a fragment, it has like the green line. So usually it corrects it like, did you mean this? And didn't even do that. It was just like, whatever, pick your menus for tonight. So
All right, your menus for tonight. Yeah, okay.
Well, just stop being your own worst pessimist.
I am my biggest pessimist.
I played you that clip of that doctor from the Netflix miniseries Pandemic, who in the miniseries he's been spending a long time working on a vaccine that he hopes will be a universal vaccine. These are people who chase these pandemics around the world, whether they're limited to one continent, whether they make their way over here. There's a part of it where they talk about how Ebola got over here, and that wasn't a big thing because those people, the people who were in charge of those things, were prepared for it, and they knew where it came from. Whereas coronavirus, they never started testing people, so they don't know where it started here. Or Seattle was like the big first hotspot, but they didn't test people. Detroit, because they are blowing up, are going to be the first city to deploy a new test from Abbott Labs, which will show someone in 5 minutes, if they have COVID-19. City of Detroit got the Abbott Labs tests yesterday, and they'll be using those. These are one-shot tests. I mean, they had did you see the doctor on Fox News, by the way?
Yes.
Where I don't think they got out of him what they thought they were going to get out of him. They usually have doctors on there who take a rosier view of things because that fits into kind of what Fox News is trying to do over there. Mm-hmm. But they had a doctor that was pretty blunt about what's going on, and the anchor wasn't quite sure how to follow up with him.
Yeah.
So at the end of this, she just kind of
She goes,
lets him go.
thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what we hear every night is that there are millions of tests available, and yet we don't have that pinprick blood test that you can just sort of get, at your local doctor and know in 15 minutes.
So the fact is, we knew about this from the WHO when? December 31st, 2019. So last year, we knew about this. We knew coronavirus is coming. We knew it was a respiratory disease. We knew it was person to person. Why is it that it's this week that the FDA finally approved these kind of new Abbott lab testing, which, by the way, is one test at a time? That's wonderful, but it's not the same volume that you really need. We needed this months ago. You look at South Korea and the U.S. had their first official confirmed case on the same date, January 19th. That means since January 19th, you look at what South Korea did and what we did. Their population is 1/6 of ours. Look at the cases they have. Look at the mortality they have. It's a trifle compared to what we're dealing with right now, because we've had a very weak response and they had a really strong response.
Doctor, thank you.
Get him out of here.
Normally, I'd chalk it up to just the delay, but there wasn't a delay at the beginning of the interview. So, yeah, it's I don't know what you do with that if you're over there at Fox News, but boy, I never thought I'd see the phrase, if only America could do as well as Singapore. But that's what you're seeing.
Also,
with response to coronavirus.
Side note, did you know that Dr. Fauci, is that how you pronounce his name?
Dr. Anthony Fauci.
He had to beef up security because people are like not believing that he is telling the truth. Like, he's trying to save America's ass, and he's getting death threats.
Well, that's what I'm talking about when I talk about people all those people who called me yesterday to scream at me or whatever, well, it could have been 2 million people. They keep going back to this, it would have been 2 million people if Trump didn't do anything. But they're telling me as though 2 million people would have changed their minds about him.
Nope.
Which it would not, I assure you. And he would have been perfectly happy not doing anything. If he didn't do anything, this would have happened. He didn't want to do anything at all. That's why I kept telling people it was nothing. And it'll go away. It'll magically disappear by April.
Once it gets warm, it's fine.
He had to be dragged kicking and screaming into any kind of response whatsoever. And so this Anthony Fauci, you never thought you'd see a time where the scientists and the people, like Poundcake said, who are trying to save your ass, are being called, deep state plants. But they got nothing else. That the Dunning-Kruger effect, it's coming up a lot recently. Stupid people think they're smart. Mm-hmm. They can do a lot of damage in a situation like this. And I think Trump fans know what a moron he is. And that's why they're getting mad at doctors. It's not that they think he's doing an amazing job. They know he's dumb. That's why they're getting mad at the doctors. Because anybody who actually knows anything, anybody who is an expert, is seen as a threat.
Also, when we give credit to Mike DeWine for doing a good job handling this in Ohio, how come there's never anyone attacking you over that? when they go, oh, it's just because you're a lib. What'd you call him?
He called a liberal tard.
Liberal tard, yeah.
Like when someone does a good job, I feel like you give them credit. Mike DeWine did a good job in Ohio.
Oh, trust me, I have liberals hitting me up, pissing and moaning that I complimented Mike DeWine. Well, what about all the other stuff he did that was awful before? Yeah, again, just like all those guys calling me yesterday going, well, Obama. I don't care about Obama. He's not the president now. And I don't care about what Mike DeWine did before. I care about what he's doing right now.
This is the major concern right now.
Listen, he's so good at putting everyone on lockdown because he already did that to women's vaginas last year.
Mary Santora.
He knows what he's doing.
Standing up for women's
Come on,
rights.
guys. He knows what he's doing.
Nobody's saying the guy's perfect. There were a lot of people before now who couldn't stand Andrew Cuomo. But the guy,
But he's got his nips pierced, and that changes minds.
Yeah, he changed his
Here's some
mind.
dream catchers.
I see my leather stallion. It's all good.
when you're put in charge of something or forced to be in charge of something because the people at the very top got their thumbs up their asses, well, you either step up or you don't.
I hope they wash their hands.
I mean, whatever you think, and trust me, when all this goes back to whatever, there will be plenty of time to complain about Mike DeWine's other policies, right?
Yep.
And we will.
Well, whatever.
Well, I'm saying I'm not a big fan of Mike DeWine, but I think he handled this situation well.
Yeah.
He showed great leadership.
And we're
in
desperate for that.
Nobody's
doing that.
100%.
Right.
Right? I was a big Obama guy, but he wasn't 100%.
Nobody's going to be.
He did
it was 50-50.
tons of drone killings and, well, 80-20 with
No,
Obama.
I was saying
His parents,
white
his
and
mates.
blackness.
It's okay.
Oh, I get it. So, I mean, you can't blame people for being confused. You know, they go, well, most people have no symptoms. And then they go, well, now it's airborne. Well, wear a mask. Well, don't wear a mask. So,
Stay home.
Just stay home.
Stay home.
and you can't blame people. Some people don't trust the news. And you can't even fully blame them for that. Somebody on MSNBC was complaining about the whole 200,000 people dead, and they were calling it Trump's stated goal is 200,000 dead.
Oh, my God.
Well, no, he didn't say that his goal was 200,000 dead people.
That's the projections based on the information that we have.
So that's unfair, too.
Yeah.
And that's if they do everything right.
But, whatever. And again, they're not doing everything right. So, who knows? But I thought it was very strange. Those dudes that were calling and screaming at me yesterday kept throwing out, well, it would have been 2 million people. You don't know that. Even the current charts and stuff that we see, you kind of have to take with a grain of salt. They're like, well, best case scenario is 100,000 to 200,000 people. I saw they just bought 100,000 body bags. So I guess they're preparing for later rather than preparing for now, if that's what that means. I don't know. Don't know what that means. I saw in New York State, they're paying prisoners $6 an hour to dig mass graves. Jesus. Because they're like, well, we didn't prepare before, so now I guess we have to unfortunately prepare for after.
Well, because we're in the, it sounds stupid, but we're in the during.
We're in the shrimp now.
We're in it. So you can't go back and change what you didn't prepare for. You're like, well, I got to do something with all these dead people.
Right.
You know?
The mass grave thing makes me very uncomfortable.
No doubt it makes everybody uncomfortable.
Because it just seems
So
like,
old-timey.
we just put them in. Yeah, exactly.
Very old.
It
I think
seems
of
like-
World War II. Yeah. That's what I go to as concentration camps. Whenever I hear the term mass grave, that's what I think is just big hole in the ground, line them up. Not that they're shooting people, but that's the image that immediately comes into my head.
Well, yeah, because this whole thing has taken everything back to that time, kind of.
Also, why are they, can't they use construction equipment to dig holes? Why are they using prisoners?
Well, they need them something to do. They're probably trying to get them out, get some fresh air.
What the?
Are they all going to be close
Coronavirus.
together?
They're all already close together.
All right, hold out your shovel and make sure you say a shovel's distance apart.
A shovel's distance apart. That's right.
And don't you be coughing.
Inmates. Don't you be coughing.
So
Women be coughing.
I don't know how you get on television and tell the American people that they're going to have to come to grips with the fact that it may be 250,000 of your countrymen and women who are going to end up dead. I don't know how you do that, but that's what they're, and the scientists are like, look, I don't know what to tell you. This is what we're looking at. That's what we're looking at.
I hope they're wrong. I really hope it is fake news.
Everybody hopes that it's not even a matter of it being fake news.
I just don't want it to be real.
I just want the projections to be on the
Yeah,
lower
of course.
side.
It would be, absolutely. There isn't a person in this country who wants them to be higher. Everybody wants them to be lower. But yeah, I don't know. So when we were talking before about like when everybody gets the high sign, who's staying home? I'm staying home.
I'm staying home. I already stay home. I ain't changed my routine much.
But it's like what Bill said. There's people who cannot stay home. There's people who have to go back to work in the service
No,
industry.
I understand.
There's
I
entertainment
understand.
people. You know what I mean? Like,
Not everybody has that flexibility.
yeah.
Hey, who knows?
I'm worried about people being broke.
Of course.
People being unemployed.
Of course.
They'll be in great company, though.
Who?
No, I'm saying that these people aren't going to, that restaurants workers aren't going to have jobs anymore.
Yeah.
Hey, we might not be here in June. What the hell
Hey,
do
don't
I know?
just say that.
What do I know?
We don't know.
I'm not going back to bartending. I won't.
Try stripping.
I'm not going back to scraping dough off the bakery floor,
You don't want to be a scrapist again?
No.
That was a dark time in your past?
I'm a reformed scrapist.
You can walk down the street, Mary, hike your skirt up, and wait for someone to buy you.
Like I'm Sprint or T-Mobile?
You can pull a sprint on them. Want to pop in? I got a tiger.
All right, let me break. If you want to get the last word in, do that. 35192. Since we're ending the show on a high note, and AlanCoxShow.com for everything else.
It's the Alan Cox Show on 100.7 WMMS and everywhere you